Okay, before I get into Barbados, I'm going to look back just a little bit at Brazil, give you some medical statistics. I'm happy to report that we have had no cases of malaria, 0 cases of yellow fever, no dengue. From the Amazon, we did have 1 scorpion sting. I'm happy to report that the patient survived, but the scorpion did not. And we had 1 fracture. I'm not able to tell you his name, but he did suffer a fracture of the 5th metacarpal. The circumstances are still being investigated. And now, just a couple days ago, I'll give you some medical statistics for the Sea Olympics. It's true what Peggy said, that we, in the end, officially had no injuries. However, we weren't quite so sure early on. In fact, early on, I noticed that a number of students appeared to have suffered some trauma, lacerations in particular. And there were so many, I thought we were dealing with some sort of a mass casualty scenario. For example, this poor woman has obviously suffered major head trauma. And this brave young man despite suffering extensive trauma, he's still walking. But we did some further investigation on these students, and we discovered that actually these weren't lacerations, but rather red paint. And we're just hoping that it's not lead-based. Then later in the day, I think a lot of you were witness to this next medical incident. We were here in the Union, and there was a gentleman who actually fell to the ground and went into convulsions. We captured this on film. Fortunately, he's now on medication. No, as it turns out, these were actually voluntary spasms. So we ruled out seizure, and it seems to be an advanced case of the worm. Okay, now on to Barbados. We do have a number of serious health issues here in Barbados that you should be aware of. First of all, we have another mosquito-borne disease to talk about. One you may not have heard much about, chikungunya. This is definitely a disease you don't want to get. The term chikungunya actually comes from East Africa, from the Makonde language, that has a word that means that which bends up. And that which bends up is used to describe the patient who is suffering from chikungunya, who assumes sort of a contorted posture due to the severe pain of the joint involvement. So, chikungunya is a virus spread by mosquitoes. And we actually haven't seen this in the Americas until late last year. It had been a disease found in Asia and parts of Africa. But since December of last year, many Caribbean countries have started to see a huge number of chikungunya cases. There's no vaccine for it. There's no antiviral treatment. If you happen to get the disease, this is what's going to happen. It'll incubate for 3 to 7 days in your body, and then you'll experience the sudden onset of a high fever, severe debilitating joint pain, a rash that looks like this, headache, fatigue, nausea, and vomiting. But the good news is that it's rarely fatal. The bad news is that joint pain and fatigue can last for weeks to months to years. Okay? So the best strategy is prevention from mosquito bites, and I encourage you to use your insect repellent liberally. And don't forget about dengue. Dengue is still with us in Barbados and Cuba. All right. We're going to be in a hot tropical environment, and we're going to want to keep hydrated. You've heard about this before. I think many of you discovered in Brazil the green coconut, and I highly recommend the green coconut water. It's low in fat and carbohydrates. It's a great source of potassium, magnesium, antioxidants. It's readily available on the beach, and you can enjoy it floating in the water. And I recommend keeping an extra serving on hand. And as R.D. Danny will tell you, the meat tastes delicious. Okay. Now, I have to say you all should give yourselves a pat on the abdomen. After Brazil, the medical team really expected we'd see a lot of travelers' diarrhea, and in reality, we just saw a handful of cases. So we don't know what your secret is, but you've obviously got robust intestinal tracts. Which really amazes me because I've seen what you guys have been eating and drinking. So let's keep that up, and I wanted to tell you about a period of time that's coming up that's essential in terms of our bowels. For 15 days prior to the arrival in the United States, the ship starts recording the number of cases of diarrhea. And if the number of passengers exceed 2% of the total population, then the ship is put into quarantine and has to go through a huge decontamination process. It's expensive, it's time consuming. You guys aren't quarantined, but the ship is quarantined. So 2% is about 14 of you. So just be careful what you eat or drink. We'd really like for your stools to look something like this. Or in other terms, like this. And not like this. Okay, so finally, let's not forget the IT rules for staying healthy in Barbados. Rule number 1.
Don't get hit.
Rule number 2.
Don't get bit.
Rule number 3.
Don't get bit.
Rule number 4. Unfortunately, the video was censored, so don't do it. And last and perhaps most important, rule number 5.
Don't touch poop.